Hi everyone, so the second resource that I'm going to be taking a look at is my students' SeeSaw pages and the activities that I post on there. So when I was looking at the accessibility for this website, the first thing that I checked was how well the narration feature in Safari worked with reading the web page. And while it did start to read like the Miss Adams up here and using SeeSaw for home learning, once it got down to the assignments, which is what students would actually need to be able to read, it skipped over them. So it would just read like everyone, Miss Adams, and then like, comment, and go through that. So it wasn't the best for reading what is on the web page, but SeeSaw does have some different features that I'll talk about in a little bit that do kind of help you work around that. But the narration feature in Safari did not work that great. Another thing that I tried out was enlarging the text. So I did zoom in on my web page to see what it started to look like, and the text did get bigger, and the website did a nice job of kind of adjusting. So instead of having all of these options available on the right of the screen, it moved them underneath, and it did a really nice job of adjusting to that feature for students who need bigger text. Another really nice thing about the layout of SeeSaw is that pretty much every time there is a word, there is a symbol associated with it. So if you do have students who can't read, you can just tell them the symbol that they need to look for, especially because I've had some students who don't speak very good English. One of my students actually speaks all Spanish, so being able to communicate by showing her which symbol she needs to be looking for has been really helpful to help her navigate when she doesn't know what English words she needs to be looking for. And then speaking of appealing to English language learners, there is one thing that I want to point out that's been really helpful with SeeSaw. So one of my students does speak primarily Spanish. So when she communicates with me, she is typing her comments in Spanish most of the time. And when I'm giving her feedback, I also do communicate with her in Spanish as well as English so she can see. But when she does type to me in Spanish, or if I type to her, SeeSaw has a built-in translation feature where you can click on it and then it'll automatically translate it for you. So if it detects students are typing in another language, which she does a lot, I can just click on that translate button and it will switch it into English so I can understand what she's saying. Some of the times it's not spot on, but I can get the gist of what she's saying. So that has been really helpful for communicating with non-English speakers as well. So kind of switching gears, I want to talk now about how SeeSaw and the available tools with it align with Universal Design for Learning. So taking a look in the engagement section, one of the choices was optimizing choice, and specifically focusing on tools used for production, which was something that I felt SeeSaw did a really nice job. So when we go over to activities, this is where the students' assignments show up, and SeeSaw has a lot of really great features that help students choose how they want to share their knowledge. So for example, you can see in the directions for this assignment, students are going to draw out what their car will look like, and then they have the choice if they want to draw on the slide or if they want to take a picture and then voice record or type over explaining their drawing. So they can choose how they want to show that knowledge. And then same for like sharing, their job is going to be to test out their car and show me how it works. So they can choose if they want to do that by creating video, if they want to type about it, if they want to take a picture and voice record. There are multiple ways that they can produce the content that I need them to. So another aspect of engagement that I feel SeeSaw does a really nice job with is being able to encourage self-regulation. So if we scroll down a little bit, the last assignment that I have my students complete for each challenge is a think about it activity. And so for here, they're thinking about different questions and reflecting upon their building process. And again, they can respond using text, they can respond using drawing, or they can voice record, whatever is the best way for them. But they're reflecting about what they've made and how they could improve it. In the representation section, one of the criteria was perception and focusing on alternatives for auditory or visual media. And so SeeSaw is really cool because you can type out your directions, and when you're typing out your directions, you can also insert these little shortcuts that are the icons that they're going to then be looking for when they go to complete the assignment. It also allows you to record your instructions, so even though you can also use the built-in navigation, which will have the computer reading it. I can also record myself reading the directions, and then students can play that. So if they can't read or they aren't really understanding the directions, they can also hear my voice read them. SeeSaw also lets you attach visual directions, so like photos or videos. So when students, after they read the directions, if they're still not really sure what to do, they can click on here and they can see a picture of an example of a completed assignment. So they can read about it, they can hear it, or they can see it. In the action and expression section, one of the criteria was physical action and varying methods for response and navigation. So one thing that I do for my students, aside from giving them the typed out directions, the recorded directions, and the visual directions, I also do a very similar thing with their content. So I do kind of give them a message of what their overall content for the week is going to be, and then I do attach a screencast of me going through their slides and explaining the content that they need to know and their directions for their activities. I also include a PDF version of that so students can flip through it at their own pace, or they can go back and read more on their level, or they can hear me depending on what they would like to do. So they do have varying methods for how they want to view the content, and then that same thing applies, like I have shown you, how they can decide how they want to share their knowledge. One of the criteria that's also mentioned in the physical action section is optimizing access to tools and assistive technology, and I feel SeeSaw could improve on this because when I go to how to response and view an assignment, the only thing that the narration in Safari is going to read is the instructions. And so it's not really going to read what the students are seeing in their assignment. So for this one, it's not really a big deal because this is just reiterating the instructions. But for activities where students are matching things or answering specific questions, that can inhibit how they view it because the narration in Safari isn't going to read it. So I do feel SeeSaw could improve on that. So overall, I feel SeeSaw does do a really nice job of making learning accessible for users. They include a nice balance of text and icons, and they also give students and teachers a variety of ways that they can communicate with each other.